Building an online business can be one of the most challenging yet rewarding experiences you can have as a content creator.
That was hard. So hard.
Luckily for you, we've done all the heavy lifting of going through the most effective and efficient ways to make money online from what you know. And in this series, we're sharing the 5 best business models for turning your content into cash. If a challenge or a course from parts 1 or 2 don't feel quite right for you, today we might have just the thing you've been looking for, especially if you're more on the camera shy side. If you've got a lot to say and share on your topic of expertise, there's a huge opportunity for you to turn your experience into earnings. So now model 3 here is launching a private podcast. This can be great, again, for those of you that might be a little camera shy, or maybe you don't have the strongest writing ability, or maybe you just like talking a bunch.
I love to talk. Live to talk.
A private podcast can be a great business model. It's great for sharing exclusive content and creating a closer community. People that are part of, something private. It feels exclusive. It feels, kind of like that VIP thing, and you just get that closer connection with your audience members that are willing to pay to, listen to what you have to say. Another really strong advantage of this is the predictable income and flexibility of your monetization options. You could have, a set subscription that people pay every month. You could have tiered subscriptions for, maybe different levels of content or, different levels of supporters. You can kind of, play with this and make it your own. And another big advantage of this is the enhanced privacy and control of your content. Because you have it as, private content and it's gated behind some sort of like subscription, things like that. It's not just being put out into the masses, into the public. You're able to really keep control of that content, where it goes and who is able to consume it, rather than just kind of, throwing it out there to anyone. A big limitation with the private podcast model, especially if you're, newer and starting out, is, you're going to have a limited reach and a limited earning potential with a smaller audience. It's going to take time as well to build up your subscriber base, especially if it's, exclusively a private podcast. Perhaps if you have a public, front-facing thing that you're kind of using to generate your audience, to grow your audience and your reach, and then you have an additional sort of back-end private podcast where, members can pay an additional fee to get some of that more exclusive content or behind the scenes or whatever you kind of decide makes sense for the private section of it. That could be a good way to kind of get the best of both worlds. You still get that reach from your public content, but then you can kind of filter down and control who gets into the private content on the other side there. And the other sort of limitation that goes along with this, being that it's a podcast, is typically there's going to be more recurring content creation on a pretty frequent basis with a podcast. Now, there is probably ways that you could pre-record a lot of this depending on what your content is, again. But typically with podcasts, a lot of it is timely information, especially if you're having guests or things like that and you're talking about current events. There is going to be that recurring content creation requirement to kind of sustain that content output over time. So that is just a limitation to consider with this model. Now, with that being said, this is great for content creators that really want to offer some sort of exclusive content to a very dedicated audience. By having something that's private like this, again, that, only those that are paying and supporting it get to consume that content, it helps to create a closer knit community with those audience members, that sort of closer, more intimate connection with that. So if you've decided the private podcast is what you want to do, how do you get started? Step 1, as always, you got to define your niche, define what your interests or topics are going to be and who that target audience is going to be, and then find ways to communicate to them. Just like we said in the last tip, the more specific you can be with your audience member and, the more niched you can be and focused on that, the more personal of a connection the audience member is going to have, the more engagement they're going to have with your content as well. So whether that's, business tips.
A, always be B, C, closing. Always be closing.
Or maybe it's true crime cases.
We could bring him in on it.
Bring the killer in on what?
The podcast.
Whatever your podcast happens to be about, just kind of sort out what that topic is and who you're going to be speaking to. The second step is obviously to develop your content strategy and schedule. Is this going to be something where you have a new episode every week? every month, every 2 weeks. You got to kind of work out what that schedule, what that frequency is going to be like, and let people know what they're going to be getting for what they're paying. So after you've got that figured out, you've got your content kind of mapped out here and the posting schedule, you got to choose your platform to host your podcast on. Hint, searchy. And then you've got to promote your private podcast to potential subscribers. So whether that's through your socials, through your email lists, what have you, you've got to find a way to get the word out and get the people that you want listening to that content to your content. A great benefit, again, of using Searchie for this is you can leverage Searchie AI. You can automatically generate transcriptions and captions for that audio content that you upload into Searchie. And then you're able to quickly and easily repurpose that for little social posts, little snippets. You could use the transcription and just convert that into a blog post. So every podcast episode you've got the show notes or a complete blog post that goes out with it. You could also put this into your website. You could embed, both of them. You could have the podcast episode plus the whole transcript or blog post right under it. That's a great way to take advantage of AI and make things a whole lot easier for yourself. Get that content out in more than just that one way. So if you're wanting to create a closer connection with your audience, serve them in a more timely manner, or simply generate some cash from your valuable conversations, a private podcast might be the best way to take your online business to the next level. And you can get started for free by just clicking the link below to start your free trial of Searchie today. Inside, you can host all of your valuable content, enhance your workflows with AI, create your own hub to host your paid community members, share your private podcast episodes, and so much more. As always, if you like this video and you found value from it, and you want me to continue the series with a part 4, just comment, give me number 4 down below. Now that you've got a few pieces to the puzzle to turn what you know into recurring revenue, it's important that you don't forget the bigger picture. So you'll want to watch this video where I take you through the 5 simple steps to create a wildly successful sales funnel so you're able to keep your audience and business growing month after month. So go check it out, give this one a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video.